I can tell you is when I was married to Katy Perry, she's like a, not entirely normal because she's an extraordinary, massive star, but she's not weird or off key and wasn't involved in anything nefarious.
They were one of Hollywood's most unexpected power couples, a bold, eccentric British comic and a global pop princess with a voice that could shatter glass and charts alike. When Russell Brand and Katy Perry got married in 2010, fans didn't know what to expect, but no one thought it would end so suddenly and so silently. Now, after more than a decade of mystery, Russell Brand has finally broken his silence. And what he shared wasn't scandalous. It was surprisingly raw and human. For years, the public filled in the blanks with wild theories, but Brand's recent reflections paint a very different picture. One filled with chaos, mismatched timing, and two people simply growing in opposite directions. Let's break down everything we now know about what really went down, from their whirlwind romance to the unexpected text that ended it all. Russell finally talks. In a recent episode of his podcast, Russell Brand opened up about his marriage to Katy Perry, something he'd kept tight-lipped about for over a decade. He didn't drop shocking allegations or wild stories. Instead, he looked back with a level of honesty that took fans by surprise.
What I can tell you is when I was married to Katy Perry, she's like a, not entirely normal because she's an extraordinary, massive star, but she's not weird or off key and wasn't involved in anything nefarious.
He described Katy as a massive star and acknowledged that being married to someone like her came with its own set of complexities. He explained that their breakup wasn't explosive. It was a result of typical human challenges that many couples face. It wasn't about betrayal. It wasn't about drama. It was about two people who simply weren't aligned anymore.
I probably disagree with some of my wife's political views, my beloved wife Laura Brand's political views. So, you know, you always disagree with people, don't you? So,
what stood out most was his tone. There was no bitterness, just reflection. He didn't tear her down or romanticize the past. Instead, he gave fans something rare in celebrity culture, a mature, grounded explanation. And in doing so, he reignited global interest in a love story that had disappeared just as quickly as it had begun.
I thought it was...
You didn't watch it!
My favourite bit was when Chalky each fell over on the carpet, and then Pipsqueaks come over, and then Sneezy went, no!
A marriage that looked perfect. Their wedding was unforgettable. Held in India with all the flair of a Bollywood spectacle, it was a dreamy, spiritual affair filled with elephants, henna, and candlelight. On the surface, it looked like something out of a fairy tale. But behind the scenes, the reality was much more complicated. Katy Perry was at the peak of her pop career, touring non-stop and managing a whirlwind schedule. Russell Brand, while still deeply entrenched in comedy and media, was beginning a shift toward spirituality and activism. Their worlds collided, but they weren't moving in the same direction. Brand has since hinted that being in a relationship with someone constantly in the public eye can feel like being in a cyclone, overwhelming, chaotic, and impossible to slow down. While their connection may have been real, their day-to-day lives simply didn't fit together. It was the kind of relationship that burns bright but fast, intense, public, and eventually too heavy to carry forward. The text that ended everything. One of the most shocking pieces of this entire story came directly from Katy Perry herself. In an interview with Vogue, she revealed that Russell ended their marriage with a single text message. That's right, after months of global speculation and public appearances together. The end of their marriage wasn't some dramatic blowout or emotional confrontation. It came as a message on December 31st, 2011. Just like that, their 2-year relationship was over. Katy went on to say that she never heard from him again after that message. No closure, no conversation, just silence.
There's a lot on your mind right now. You have two options.
You can cancel the show, or you can do your best.
Even more heartbreaking, she received the text just moments before stepping on stage to perform. With thousands of fans waiting, makeup artists around her, and cameras rolling, she had no choice but to wipe her tears and walk out like nothing had happened. Fans were floored. For someone as outspoken and bold as Brand, the idea that he'd ghost his wife came as a complete shock. But it also fed into the image of him as a man running from something bigger. Maybe not just from Katy, but from the spotlight, the circus, and the version of himself he no longer wanted to be. Regardless of the reasons, the way it ended left scars, and it gave the world a glimpse into just how fragile even the most glamorous relationships can be. Katy speaks her truth. Though Katy Perry has mostly remained private about her breakup, she's shared glimpses over the years that help explain her side of the story. She spoke openly about how deeply in love she was with Russell and how much she wanted the marriage to work. But at the time, she was constantly touring, chasing massive career milestones, and simply wasn't ready to slow down or start a family. Something she said Brand had been pushing for. In her own words, she admitted she put everything into the relationship, to the point where she even blamed herself when it didn't work out. But with time, she realized that there were deeper issues at play.
Had a little bit of my self-confidence shattered, and so I was trying to build it back up, and I wrote this song, By the Grace of God, which was about me having a lot of negative thoughts in my mind.
She also hinted that there were truths she was choosing not to share. Things she could say that would change the public's opinion of what really happened. But out of respect, or perhaps to protect herself, she held back. That silence, much like Brand's, kept the mystery alive. But her heartbreak was always visible. In her music, in her performances, and in the moments when her guard slipped just enough to show the pain behind the pop persona. Timing was their greatest enemy. By the time they got married, both Katy and Russell were skyrocketing in different directions. On paper, it looked like a perfect celebrity pairing. Two bold, successful people who weren't afraid to be a little weird. But the truth was, their lives weren't built to run parallel. Katy was locked into her teenage dream era. She was headlining sold-out arenas around the world, filming music videos, recording new tracks, and becoming one of the most recognizable faces in pop. Her brand was bigger than ever, and her time wasn't really hers anymore.
This is what I've been looking at in the Bible today. You know, Ephesians 6:12, one of Paul's letters to the Ephesians. He wrote a lot of letters, Paul. He done a lot of miracles, he got a lot done, but he still had time for correspondence.
Russell, meanwhile, had hit a turning point. Fame no longer thrilled him the way it used to. He was starting to crave meaning, diving deep into activism, philosophy, and spirituality. His humor was still sharp, but his interests were shifting dramatically. He wasn't just changing careers, he was changing as a person. In many ways, their timing was a cruel mismatch. While one was climbing the Hollywood ladder, the other was quietly trying to step away from it. And when two people grow in completely opposite directions, love alone often isn't enough to bridge the gap. No villains, just two broken hearts. It's easy to want a villain in a breakup story, especially one as public as this. But looking at what both have shared, it's clear that there's no bad guy here. Just two people who weren't right for each other in the long run. Russell has never spoken negatively about Katy. In fact, he's gone out of his way to praise her talent, her strength, and the magic she brought to the world. He's acknowledged that their relationship ended for human reasons, not because of scandal, betrayal, or ego. Katy, too, has never trashed him in interviews. Even when she revealed how abruptly he ended things, she didn't spiral into public anger. Instead, she channeled her feelings into her music and focused on healing. Their split hurt. There's no denying that, but it also shaped both of them into who they are now. And over the years, they've each moved forward in very different, but very successful ways. This wasn't a scandal. It was a lesson, one that played out on the biggest stage in the world and left a lasting mark on pop culture history. Life after love. After the dust settled, both Russell Brand and Katy Perry took very different paths, but neither one faded. In fact, their post-divorce lives seem like two sides of a coin, peaceful reinvention versus continued pop dominance.
I want to meet Laura.
There she is. This is my wife, Laura. That's Brandon.
Hey, Laura.
Hey.
Great to meet you. Honored to meet you. I love your family so much already.
Russell found the quiet he'd been craving. He married lifestyle blogger Laura Gallagher in 2017, and they've since built a family together. Away from red carpets and gossip columns, Brand leaned harder into mindfulness, fatherhood, and political commentary. His chaotic comic days slowly gave way to a version of himself that's more reflective, more measured, and deeply intentional. For Katy, the spotlight never dimmed. She bounced back from heartbreak with raw, emotionally charged albums and even bigger global tours. Eventually, she found love again, this time with actor Orlando Bloom. In 2020, they welcomed their daughter, Daisy Dove Bloom, into the world. These days, Katy balances pop stardom with motherhood and business, continuing to evolve in front of an audience that's grown up with her. Their stories didn't end with heartbreak. They kept going. They rebuilt, separately, but successfully. And if nothing else, that's proof that even painful chapters can lead to better ones.
What I can tell you is, when I was married to Katy Perry, she's like not entirely normal because she's an extraordinary, massive star, but she's not weird or off-key and wasn't involved in anything nefarious.
Now, with Russell finally opening up, the pieces fall into place. It was timing, mismatch, pressure, and maybe a little bit of fear. But what makes this story stand out isn't just how it ended, it's how both of them handled it. No public war, no passive-aggressive jabs, just two people choosing to grow separately. And that's what gives this story its staying power. Because in a world full of fake PR romances and messy celebrity meltdowns, their love, flawed as it was, actually felt real. So now that the truth is finally out, how do you see it? Was this just bad timing? A love that burned out too fast? Or did Russell's confession reveal a deeper story we never saw coming? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear your side. Was it a heartbreaking end, or the beginning of something better for both of them? And if you want more real celebrity breakdowns, shocking behind-the-scenes truths, and emotional stories Hollywood never really told, subscribe, turn on notifications, and join the conversation. Because when stars fall in love, the crash always leaves something behind.